Are you looking for an escape from manufactured truth wrapped in selfish agenda? Don't you just want to have a real and raw conversation, all masks and rules aside? That's what you're getting here at Titan Evolution Podcast. Get rid of all the nonsense information and discuss everything under the sun without filters. Listen to real stories of real people who will put your current perspectives to the test, guide you on living the life you truly want, and see everything free from judgment and pretenses. Time to get rid of those unhealthy environments and let your authentic self shine. Here are your hosts, Travis Johnson and Carol Carpenter.
Welcome to our show. I'm Carol Carpenter and my co-host, Travis Johnson, who is, hi, my goofy Travis Johnson. And our special guest today is Eddie Wilson. And Eddie has owned over 125 companies. And we were just talking before the show, and he's exited over 90 now, but he's apparently lost count, which has earned him the name of the King of Exits. And Eddie is also known for creating Empire Operating System, an operating system that manages the growth of his company systematically. If I can speak today, it would be wonderful.
Nope, not allowed.
Resulting in the best odds for success. Really, Travis?
Yeah.
What? You gonna pick at me from the very beginning now?
Well, I don't like to wait. That's one of my things. I just don't like waiting. Like, why does this problem exist in your life? Well, I couldn't wait, so I did it with the whatever. And here we are.
Right then and there.
Right.
Yep, immediately. Yep. So Collective Influence is his current equity firm, and he spends a great deal of his time devoted presently to humanitarian nonprofit activities with his foundation, Impact Others. Welcome, Eddie.
Thank you. Glad to be here.
Thanks for joining us. And as Travis is sitting there smirking, we know he has a question he wants to ask you.
Yeah, Carol, why are you so uncomfortable at the beginning of these things? It's like you forget how to talk or something.
Oh, wow. Wow.
We haven't recorded for like over a month because we took Christmas off and all those things. It's our first day back, and I have been nothing but ruthless and unkind to Carol.
He has been since the very beginning.
She's going to make me pay when I see her this weekend in Florida. She's going to make me pay.
Possibly.
It's easy now.
Actually, Travis, when have you known me to do that? Come on. I don't know. Anybody.
Weird things happen. I don't know who's to blame for them. It might be you. Pulling. I have no idea.
Oh, throw me under the bus. I love it.
Eddie's like, do I even need to be here for this? Thanks for having me on, guys. You just talk to each other the whole time. You're just eye candy for the show, I guess. I don't know. Eddie, what's up, man? How the hell are you?
I'm doing fantastic. Thank you.
I want to know, man, you've done a lot, and everything you do seems to have this huge impact arm, and everything that you do seems to be not about you. And I want to know what drives you, like what makes you a Titan.
Sure. Yeah. So obviously we've had lots of exits. We've, had a lot of different companies. But for me, life has really revealed itself to actually have purpose when it's tied to something that's greater than yourself. And so you can only have so much money, so many exits, so many companies, whatever. And at some point, it just all is meaningless. And so it's been a journey for sure to get to the place where I am today. But so much of my time today is spent trying to create additional impact, in the world. We have a nonprofit called Impact Others, and a percentage of all my companies go to that. I have some companies that all profit actually goes to Impact Others. And Impact Others is, it really has four, legs to it: feeding and educating children. We have a lot of orphanages and feeding centers. We feed around 4,000 children a day in about 13 different countries. And then we do a lot of clean water projects in various areas. Then we do a lot of viable and sustainable business creation. It's not just about giving the money to those groups. It's also about helping create jobs and opportunities for them. So we've started woodworking facilities in Laos and buffalo farms in India, and taxi companies in Ghana, West Africa, and all of that kind of stuff. And then lastly, it's just about finding humanitarian good for groups of people that are less fortunate. And so all of that happens outside of the United States, more by design with intention, but we just give a percentage of everything that we do, whether it's exiting a company, buying it, selling it, or creating it and riding the wave that we're creating. It all creates that. And there's a lot of purpose that I find in that. And so I don't know that I would classify myself as a Titan, but I think if I had Titan status, it's more for what I'm trying to create for others than something that I've created for myself.
Yeah, we find that so many people in your position, when they become others focused, that's when all the magic really happens. When I find in my own personal life is when the focus is on me, it's almost always negative when I'm thinking about myself or what's going on in my situation, or me. Like it's going a downward trending. Like if it was a Travis stock exchange, like it would be trending down. But when I start putting my focus on others and how I can impact their lives or just have a good, or provide them value, whatever the thing is, my stock is trending up, and I don't think or worry about all of my own problems. Maybe I'm just distracting myself. I have no idea. I don't know who runs the Travis stock exchange, but I know which feelings get it to trend in which direction.
Yeah. Can I give you my theory in that?
Yeah. That's
okay.
That's what we're here for.
I like
this.
this.
This is the Eddie theory. Here it is.
Let's jump in, right? So, one thing, a part of the journey that I've been on is really, why do I make the decisions that I make? It's like my first exit in a company was, I was 24 years old. You make a couple $1,000,000, and the first thing you do is go buy a sports car and a beach house and realize, well, wait a minute, that didn't make me happy. So I've got to actually go do something bigger, right? And the reality of it is then you get on this journey and you're constantly looking at the mountaintop. You've got this peak you're trying to climb, and then you get almost to that peak, and all of a sudden there's another peak beyond it. You think, well, maybe I should try for that peak instead, and you abandon this peak for that peak. And life just becomes that journey and without fulfillment. And one thing that I have discovered in my life is that a lot of times you think you're in control. And what I realized in my life is that I'm really not in control. We could break all of our decisions down into the conscious and subconscious, right? So like every minute you make something like 7 conscious decisions, and so it's like, what do I eat and which direction do I go to work? And those are conscious decisions, but your mind makes 30 to 40,000 subconscious decisions per minute. And so my question really is who's actually in control, your conscious brain or your subconscious brain? And then the reality of it is your subconscious brain actually is completely dependent on, its role and function is to keep you alive and keep you safe. And so every trauma you've had in your life now, creates this subconscious tick mark that starts putting you down this pathway. And so you start making all these subconscious decisions to avoid pain, to keep you safe. And it's why, a woman who's in, a relationship where, maybe a husband or a boyfriend is abusive somehow finds herself in the next relationship that's also abusive. It's like, why do we go from area to area repeating the same thing? And if you ask somebody, they would say, I'm not intentionally doing that, like it just happened. Well, I think so much of our life is based on our subconscious choices. And I've done some really deep work in trying to remap the subconscious, because I think that my subconscious is in control, like you said, of the Eddie stock exchange, right? Like, and I think to a degree, when we're always being controlled by something that's trying to keep us safe, it's all fear-based action, then it always is trending downward, and so there's really only 2 emotions in life, and that is fear and love. And so you're either pursuing something out of passion and desire, or you're running for something because it's scary, it's going to hurt you. And if your subconscious is in control, you're running from it because it's scary and it's going to hurt you. And so a lot of my life is trying to live with this intention to avoid those subconscious fears so that I can conquer what I truly want to do in life, even though sometimes it's painful, because the end of that road is actually fulfillment. So that's my theory. How's that?
Pretty
I like
damn
it.
good theory.
That's
Okay.
show,
Yeah.
cut, paste, print. We're done. Nailed it. We can't even
Discussion
produce
over.
a show anymore. Eddie answered all the questions. If you're following
But
your
I think
30 to
it's
40. Go
but
ahead.
don't you think it's being comfortable in the uncomfortable? Because I know, all of us get raised and we have these beliefs, and they're limited beliefs, right? And it comes from a fear and scarcity kind of mindset. And I'm sure our parents, being, raised in the time frame they did, they were raised with the same mentality. And so we just kind of absorb that mentality as we grow up. And it's hard to break that, that chain, that cycle. And it is up to us to do that and recognize it. Like, you've done your work and you've recognized it and move forward. And it sucks sometimes, because every bit of you in the back of your mind is going, don't do that, don't do that. You're just going to fail. But kind of the end result is failing is a great thing. I mean, we learn from it. And if we do succeed from it, we learn so much more. Like, why are we afraid to begin with?
Yeah. If your subconscious is driving the bus, though, you want to at all cost avoid failure, because failure is pain. And so you fear that, so you run from it. If your conscious brain's driving the bus, then oftentimes you'll either run into it or you'll run out of that failure, with the right perspective. I grew up in a very amazing home. I mean, like I have, nothing to complain about from my childhood years. There's not really a lot of trauma sitting back there that I got to deal with, but some people might look at my life and go, well, maybe there was trauma. And I look back, and it's all how we take the perspective of what's happened to us. So you talked about like how you grew up, and I grew up in a home where my father had a very secure job, decided he wanted to be an entrepreneur. So he got rid of his, operating engineer job. There was a lot of security, and he went out and started trying to create his own company, and was broke for 3 or 4 years. Like, I remember oftentimes having very little to eat, basically it was like, rationing at the Wilson household. Like, what do we have and how much can we eat at this sitting, I remember Christmas, some Christmas, moments where there just wasn't a lot there, but I look at those moments and think those are the greatest Christmases I remember. My dad was intentional. He was on the floor with me. He was playing. He was in. Now, he may have been in the bedroom, with his head in his hands, bawling his eyes out because he didn't have gifts to give his children. I looked at it like, this is a great experience. I mean, dad's with me, Fast forward that 20 years, the way I operate business and the way my dad operates business is radically different. My father, I always say, we talk about the empire operating system. There's 5 phases of business. There's you start up, then perseverance, then viability, then you go to scale, and then succession. Succession is where I sell all of my businesses at. And my father will never leave viability in his business, right? Like, not going to do it. It's too scary to go to scale. Like, he literally, will go to, he and I owned an excavation company together. And the way I run an excavation company is, let's go get city contracts, state contracts. Let's do 3 or 4 states at a time. Let's go buy $5 million for the equipment, hire 30 people. Let's scale this thing. The way my dad runs it is like, let's buy one piece of equipment, let it pay for itself, have one employee, then we get enough jobs, right? Then lined up, then let's go buy another piece of equipment. It's like very secure. My dad has had this company for, I don't know, 10 years. It probably does $1 million a year. It's had the same 3 people work for it the last 15 years. I have bought and sold 100 companies since the one that he's right. Like, and he owns 3 or 4 companies. Not one of them go past 2 or 3 employees, very secure, and he's got it real spread out just in case, one of them doesn't do well one year, and he really kind of creates his own lifestyle. For me, I look at that and I think, I hate that. Like, I'd rather a business go die than to not scale it. I have no interest in businesses unless they scale. But it goes back to childhood, right? Like, I look at it, and what my dad did was jumping out, by faith or by craziness or whatever was driving him at that moment to leave his secure job and go be an entrepreneur and start companies. He removed fear from me, right? Like I get the benefit of looking back at that experience going, well, what's the worst that can happen? We sit around at Christmas time and have a great time. We don't have any presents, but we got each other. Like, I think that's great. I look at it back as a great experience. My dad looks back at it and goes, I never, ever, ever want to go back to that moment where I had to sit there and try to make something happen because I had nothing to give, you know. So he lives in this place of scarcity and security. I live in this place where people would say he's reckless and, you know, lives, you know, wild in regards to business. And it's like, but you take the exact same experience, and I went the exact 180-degree opposite way of him, you know. And it's like, it you know, it really comes down to perspective more than anything. You know, it's like, yeah, the same thing that you may fear or I may fear, somebody else might find it as a massive catalyst for success.
Mm-hmm.
What is that
Yep.
thing that has you obsessed with scalability and succession? Like, why is that the little thing that drives you?
Yeah, I want to know there's somebody inside of me that wants to know how everything works. I don't know if you're like that or not, where it's just like, you gotta, yeah, I have to know, you know. So and it's just obsessive sometimes, like, and it's not that I really need to accomplish it. It's just I have to know why. And until I scale a business, I feel like I really don't know if I really understand its capability, what it actually takes to get it there, who the people are that's going to take to get there. You know, there's something in not knowing that drives me. And usually I don't get the sense of fulfillment or excitement until it's so big that it's bigger than anything else anybody's ever created. And it's like, oh, okay, now I'm learning something that I couldn't have learned otherwise.
So would you contribute it to, say, intense curiosity?
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. So it's so funny that you say this, because my boyfriend's wired the same way you are.
Mhm.
And unless he won't be interested in a business plan of any type unless he can scale it and he can see it.
Right.
And I've always asked him, I'm like, why is that one thing so particularly important to you?
Mhm.
And he goes, because it's not worth doing if it isn't scalable.
Mhm. I have the same, because to me, it does. I think it goes all the way back to the childhood, like I talked about. I have no fear of losing everything. You know, today, you know, with all the businesses and things that we've created, like, my family's taken care of. My my probably 2 or 3 generations are taken care of. You know, like, if the accountants, the CPAs, and the tax architects did it all right, like, we're taken care of downstream. So, you know, for me, it's like money really just doesn't matter. And I don't know that it ever did. I never really chased money. But that curiosity to see what I'm capable of, and, you know, there's just something inside of me that it's like, I have to explore it. I have to know I have to know what my limitations are. But not only that, I need to know what everybody's limitations are that are in my circle. And so I feel like I push everybody at a level that is uncomfortable, including myself, including my wife, including everybody. You know, it's just like, kids. It's like, there's just something there, and I think, to me, it's more of a intense curiosity. I want to know what someone's made of.
I'm just watching Travis's head nod.
Yeah, I feel like there's some really great commentary about to come from Travis. You know, like,
I
it's
know.
that,
I think he's thinking about something, but he's trying to gauge it now because of what we said prior to the getting on this podcast, and, you know, a comment that he thought was intensely funny in his head, and it didn't come out right.
you
I'm
might as
sorry, I
well
was
say
just
it now.
buffering. I had the slow internet connection running through here.
Oh, okay.
I love the curiosity. We talked about this a little bit in our previous interview, that people that are very intelligent, they want to do something, and when they solve that puzzle, whatever that thing is, whatever that curiosity is, they get bored and they move on. And I know that I've struggled with that. I always want to do something new. You know, I've got something like, you know, Rubik's Cube on my desk that I remember when I learned how to solve this, when I was taught how to solve it, and I taught other people how to do it, and like why that mattered. And then shortly after that, I did the 4x4 and the 5x5x5 and all this stuff. And I was like, well, now that I know that, like, I don't have a lot of interest in it anymore. Like, I've
Right.
got all the stuff, I figured it out. Like, Right? But if I go back and look further back to like when video games first came out, talking like when Nintendo, you had a video game in your house and you could go through and learn and get through all the levels of Mario, and you could find all this stuff in The Legend of Zelda. Like, I'll go back and play those games, but not because of the curiosity, but because of what it did for me when I was younger. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Does that make sense?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
So what I like when we talk about something like curiosity, it's one of my favorite things. I'm looking at, a lot of people have this stuff like behind them so people can see, but I'm looking at like my bookshelves and all the things that I looked at, like what were all the things that drove me to pursue all these different things and learn all these different experiences and why that mattered. People are like, oh, how do you do so much stuff, Travis? Like, because like as soon as I'm done with the thing, I want to try something new.
Yeah.
Like I wrote 5 books on podcasting last summer. And people are like, wow, how many sales do you have? I'm like, I have no idea. And they're like, but you put all that effort in. It's like, yeah, but it wasn't because I wanted to make a ton of money doing this. I wanted to do it because I wanted to put something out there that was worthwhile, worth a shit.
Yeah.
You know, someone
Yeah.
that was going to really answer the questions. I wanted to challenge myself. Could I do something like that in that short time frame? And as soon as it was over, I was like, all right, what's the next cool thing that I'm going to do? Like,
Right.
what is like the thing
Yeah.
I had a website built and I had all these photos on there of all this crazy different. I got pictures of me skydiving and I'm at the pyramids on the beach in Dubai for New Year's and all these different things. And I don't think I've made near the money that either of you two have made, but I've found myself in situations where I've been able to do those things. And people are like, how do you have the time? I was like, when I'm going there, I always want to do like one thing I haven't done before.
Yeah.
Doesn't have to be crazy. Some of the stuff ends up
Yeah.
being crazy. Like I took a weekend with a buddy in Dubai. People were like, that's nuts. Well, we were already in the Middle East, right? We're already like 45 minutes away by plane ride. So it's not like I flew around the world to go do it. We walked around the gold souk and some of the old Dubai. We went and haggled with somebody over some nuts that they had. It's a whole other story. But we ended up like running into a friend of his that named Akio, who he met in Japan. And then Akio moved to Dubai to open up, no kidding, Japanese hibachi, where every other Japanese anything in Dubai is sushi. So Akio's got the only Japanese hibachi place. I'm probably not even saying it right. It's probably some other word, but that's just the word that popped in my head. Well, we met up with him, and then we went to like an Irish village, and then Akio was like, "You, my friend, let me take you to a place. I know somebody." I'm a kid from trailer parks and foster homes. I'm now with a guy I met in Bahrain, and American I met in Bahrain, and a Japanese man that I met in Dubai, and we're in this yacht club, this private yacht club that I shouldn't have access to. And we're walking out on a peninsula between all these $75 million plus yachts around a campfire, watching TVs that are set up in front of the yachts, smoking hookah and drinking in a Middle Eastern country. And I'm like, how in the fuck did this happen? I don't even know. Like when you look at the picture, you're like, how did you do that? I'm like, I have no idea. I just wanted to do
went with the
something
flow.
different. I opened myself up to whatever the experience is. And when I went over to do things, like things happened. On that trip, we also saw Akon at like 3 a.m. We also went on a hot air balloon ride. We also like all these things keep stacking up because I don't want to do the thing I did yesterday, which is
Right.
frustrating when, laundry is the same every day and dishes are the same every day. Or are you going to do some house maintenance? I'm like, God, no. I don't want to I don't want to do house maintenance. Like, well, if you don't do house maintenance, you're not going to have a house. I feel like I get someone else to do that. I don't like, I want to do that new thing.
Yeah. Yeah. So we kind of talked prior to the start of the podcast, and you were saying that you were the eldest in your family, that you have a younger brother. And I always find it fascinating, birth order. Obviously, how children are born and firstborns. And I think, Travis, are you too also eldest?
I am a firstborn out of 2. And actually, we talked about this phenomenon in flight school. One of the psychiatric docs, flight docs come in and they talk about, they're like, we want to do, like, we've taken all this data and we've done all this stuff. Like, who in here is a firstborn? Over 90% of the students in my flight school class were firstborn. Over 90%. I think there was like 2 people that weren't. Yeah. There's something about
I just
that
think
drive of the
first,
firstborn.
like they're overachievers. Like they want to be in like the most elite of elite groups, right?
Mm-hmm.
And I find it fascinating, obviously, for somebody like you that's done what you've done, being a firstborn, and maybe the differences between you and your brother.
Yeah. Yeah. So on the, when we were talking beforehand, I told you about my youngest brother, and there's two of us, but there was actually four of us, and I've had two siblings pass away. And
Oh
so
gosh.
that has a totally different dynamic, right? So it's like there's I think it really it somehow amplified my youngest brother's activity. And so like I'm the one that wants to keep everybody safe because I've had two siblings pass away. And my youngest one
And
is like,
were they in between
yeah, in
you
between. So I
guys?
had a sister, a sister, a brother, and then my youngest brother. And so my sister passed away when I was younger. My middle brother passed away when he was 18, 19 years old. And so
Causes?
my oldest, or my sister, had a heart defect, and went in for surgery and just didn't make it. My brother actually got diagnosed with a very rare disease, and ended up passing away when he was I think 19 years old. But my youngest brother lives with like crazy reckless abandon, right? It's like, like we like, I don't even live tomorrow, so let's do this. And so it's funny, like it's like I think we were already predisposed for that because it's like firstborn, the baby of the family. It's like, but then it just like amplified it. So
yeah, I'm sure losing and well, but he didn't play a part in that, because by the time he came along, those events had happened. It's not like he lived
no,
them.
no, he no,
You
he
did.
lived. No, he lived him as well. So like
Oh, he did. Okay.
yeah. So because my brother, so he's 10 years younger than me, but then the brother that passed away, it was 8 years younger. So there's only 2 years difference. So he was
Okay.
16 or 17 years old when my brother passed away. So he didn't necessarily live
Okay.
my sister passing because he was younger, but yeah, definitely experienced my brother. But yeah, it's just like that. I think it's that impending doom that just creates this like recklessness in him,
Yeah.
which is
Well,
fun. It's awesome.
I think for him it was like, well, shit.
Yeah.
If I die tomorrow,
Right. Right.
have I done everything I wanted to do? Let me go just try every
Yeah.
nutty thing I can come up with.
Yeah. So like I'll be traveling the world for my nonprofits, and Levi, my brother, will text me and be like, "Where are you at?" And I'll say Thailand. He'll like, how the waves in Thailand? Can I fly over there tomorrow and let's go surfing? Like that, like that's his, like, he's just wild, he's awesome. He just had his first, they just had their first baby, and it's a riot, like it's kind of, it's funny because he's so reckless, and then it's like, it's kind of taming down a little bit. We saw it for the first time at Christmas, but we'll see. Either his child is going to be, crazy and reckless, or it's going to be helicopter parent. I don't know yet, but it's interesting.
Only time will tell, right?
Only time will tell.
But it's definitely interesting to see that kind of a dynamic occur within a family, and to see this, the firstborn being so responsible.
Right.
Well, I
and
mean,
then
you see this all the time, right? When you have some major stressor, like losing a family member, some trauma, some whatever, you generally get one of two results. You get extreme safety and responsibility, or you go completely reckless. This is what it looks like with me and my sister. It looks like Eddie and Eddie's brother. And I bet you that it's repeated all over the world with almost identical results of one going super responsible and one going, you know what? Let's light this shit up. We're going right now. What are you doing? We're nude skydiving in Alaska. And you're like, you're going to freeze your dick off. Like, it's one or the other. Is that, I mean, if you're listening to this right now and you've got us on social media, be like, are you the reckless one? And we know you're not, because you wouldn't be answering our question on social media. We know you're the responsible one. But tell us how you're responsible and how your sibling is obviously a lunatic. We want to hear about that.
Yeah. Well, and I'm super interested because, seeing that you've had, over 125 companies. With your first company that you ever did, what was the drive for that company, and why did you, start it?
Again, it goes back to curiosity. I was actually in radio and television, and built a show that we sold to Fox. And that was really my first exit, but it was unintentional. It had good ratings. We had created it. They purchased it. You know, we had our first money. That was my first exit at 24. Then it was this curiosity of just like, well, man, if you could build something that somebody else feels like it has exponential value over the dollars that you've created, like, could you replicate that process? And so I started an advertising agency. And the ad agency, we went out and we signed Buffalo Wild Wings was our big, we were the agency of record for Buffalo Wild Wings. And so now you got this contract, and we got a bunch of other clients, but then the bigger agencies are coming after us going, well, we'd like to buy that contract. It's like, well, why don't you buy the whole agency? And then we negotiated and sold the agency. And so then it was like, all right. So I felt like, to me, it was like this, it wasn't really like intentional. It was totally like out of curiosity, like, what else could I create that looks just like that? And then it's like, as you start honing in on that curiosity, I realize is like, there are three things that every person trying to buy a company asks you every single time. And so what if I just architect what they're going to ask me, and then I'll get an exponential exit? Like, and so it really was just that easy. And so the three things they always ask you are obviously EBITDA, or bottom line dollars. They always ask you, what's your IP? You know, like, why can't I go create this or buy it off the shelf? You know, what makes you special? And then lastly, like, what type of operating system do you have so that if you are not here, that it will continue to operate like you have built it to operate? So that's why I built the Empire operating system, is that you can kind of overlay it. And we've got, I think there's like 14 or 1,500 companies in the United States that use Empire. And you just overlay it on your business. It's the same language, same KPIs, same structure, same dashboards. And then, you know, when you go to exit, it's like, you can put somebody else in to run this company. Here's the manual, right? Like, it's an operating system. And so then it was like, well, why can't I exponentially do that? Why can't I do that with 20 companies at a time? You know, and so they grew into 20 companies. And then it was like, then, you know, we had 86 companies running concurrently in 2019 under the Affinity Group, and insurance companies and mortgage companies and tech companies. And like, I mean, there was no rhyme or reason to it. It was just a big, you know, ball of companies, you know? And then I got the first offer to buy one or two, and I was like, let's just start selling all of them, you know? And so we ended up selling 76 companies in 1 year. And so now I'm on this journey. So the way that I built Collective Influence is it's community driven. So I have these top of the funnel community drivers, because I believe, I love community. Like, there's something about building community that's rewarding and fulfilling. So like, for instance, we bought a company called FitCon. FitCon is the nation's largest fitness convention, right? So think of Comic-Con, but fitness, right? So FitCon. And then it's like, okay, so there's a 3 million person community over there. And then it's like, downstream from that, we've bought hormone replacement companies, you know, hormone therapy replacement companies, supplement companies. And it's like, because I can create this downstream vertical that this community already tells me, these are the products I need and desire. It's like, well, I'll go buy them and better service you with them, you know? And so now it's got a lot more rhyme or reason to this private equity firm, because we're essentially building community. And really, those communities today are the fitness industry, the real estate industry, and then just general entrepreneurship. And those are the three verticals we're servicing right now. And so we've got 13 assets, you know, now aligned under those. And the crazy part is once you create this, people, and you build successful businesses that when you sell them, they still stay successful, which is very rare in this day and age. Usually it's like, when the founder leaves, the whole thing falls apart. When you have an operating system like we have, and we sell a successful business and it stays successful, they come back and say, can I buy another? Can I buy another? Can I buy another? So like this year alone, we've sold 3 companies, and the exit this year, or I'm sorry, this was 2022, which I just started Collective Influence, by the way, in 2022. So the 13 assets were all in 1 year.
Oh, wow. Okay.
And so this company, we're valued about 400 million. I started it roughly January of 2022. We sold 3 companies last year for 91.5 million off of those 3 companies. And we've got another 5 in the pipeline to acquire Q1 this year. And so It took me about five. So the first grouping of companies that I sold, the 86 companies, we did 1.27 billion in about 5.5, 6 years. That was the peak of what we did. I want to hit 1 billion this time in 2 years, right? So it's like, how do I? Again, it's that curiosity thing. Like it's pushing yourself to a level that you don't know if you quite know how to do it. So it's like you got to just create that next level of opportunity. So that's where we're at today.
Anyone
It's
else feel like they
incredible.
need a nap after that explanation? I need to lay down, put a cold towel over my eyes,
I'm fired up about it. After that
figure out what
explanation,
the
I'm ready
fuck
to
I've been doing
go.
with my life.
I don't know what I'm doing on this. I don't know what I'm doing on this podcast. I get fired up about it. So
Well, we're gonna have to
Oh,
talk
I
about
love
immediately
it.
in a podcast company after this because I got
let's
some
do it.
ideas.
Let's do it.
Yeah, there you go, there you go. And also you were talking about all your time obviously now
Yeah.
in the not for profit side of
Yeah.
business. How do you pick
Yeah.
the people that you're wanting to help or touch?
Sure. Yeah. So there is for us, there's something serendipitous about just people that you come in contact with. And now there's so much need in the world. There's no way you could service it all. Like I'm so overwhelmed by the amount of need that comes our way. But for me, staying present, one thing that my dad taught me as a kid was he constantly said, if time's your most valuable resource, then why don't you manage your time more than you manage your money? And he did that by saying things like, when I went to buy my first car, he would say, how much is the car? I said, Dad, I want to buy this car. I was 16. How much does the car cost? It cost $1,800, he said, no. How many hours is it? Like, what do you get paid an hour? $5 an hour. Okay, it costs you X amount of hours of your life. Are you willing to trade X amount of hours of your life for that car? Like, my father refused to ever allow me to associate money with purchase. I always had to associate time with purchase. And so for me, I've always been very time conscious. My poor kids get the same, lecture nonstop, I don't, you just through osmosis, you get
That's
it,
why
you
you
can't
care
help.
about scaling more than anything else, because if you can't scale it, it's not worth your time.
It's not worth your time.
Right.
And I go through, most people are amazed. My CFO and I go through every year. I actually log every hour spent at work and what task I'm doing. Because I'm very time conscious. It was driven into me. And so I can tell you exactly how many days I worked, how many hours I worked, and then he'll go through and say, how much money did you create because of your activity? And so then I actually divide that all down and go, well, every hour of my time is worth X amount of thousands of dollars. And this, it's like, so that when you go to take a meeting, it's like, it's easier to say no when it might not be worth $10,000, and so we go through painstakingly how much our time is worth, and I make my executives do that as well. But with that being said, there's something that happened in my life. I was so focused on that, but then I started going. My wife and I were on a trip to Honduras when I really saw this need for the very first time. And I won't go through the whole story, but the story basically is, I had a buddy that had a feeding center that was feeding some kids. He couldn't feed all of them, and I watched half of them get fed and half of them essentially not be able to be fed. And as an American, you're like, I'll solve it. Like, let's just go buy more food, And he goes, fine. So we hop in the truck, go to buy more rice, chicken, whatever it was. And he was like, look, here's the deal. Like, if you're not going to feed those kids, he's like, I have to make that bad choice every day. He was like, if you're not going to feed those kids for life, he was like, don't feed your ego. Like, you're either in this or don't. Let's not go back. Like, they don't need to be fed today. They need to be fed for life. Like, there's just no hope. And so my wife and I decided that would be our first one. So we really that's kind of the serendipitous thing I'm talking about. It's like, so we were just there, and it was just like, okay, like, we have the power to do that. Let's do that. And then it was like, there was something so gratifying about being in those places where I stopped watching my watch and I stopped worrying about the value of my time, because the value of my time was really being exponentially increased by all these people. And how do you value that? And so, like, I had this, like, quintessential problem, and it was like, how do I value what I'm doing right now? Like, and because everything was value based in my life. It's like, and then at some point it just translated into, well, there's way more value here in helping these kids than anything I could create for myself. And that so much of what I was creating was self-absorbed, and that there was something more gratifying not doing, the traditional, creating the traditional life I had. So we're sitting there, and then we just started, like, it just started snowballing from there. And then it just seemed like, our goal is for everybody that came in that had a worthy or needy story, if we could help in that moment, we would take it on. And so we just kind of said, you know what, if it comes our way and we can do it, like, there's no reason to say no. Like, it's like the homeless person. We make so many excuses for why we can't help. And it's like the American way, like, well, that guy, he's probably got a drinking problem, he's probably got a drug problem, that's why I'm not going to give him $1, right? It's like we do all these weird things, and it's like, and then we passed it on to our kids. And so we just decided, like, what happens if every time we get posed with the opportunity to help someone or something, that we just said yes, if it's within our power. And that led to 13 orphanages and, a 6 or 8 year time period. And now we've got 26 orphanages and feeding centers. And my kids in the back seat will say, Dad, do you not have cash on you? Can you not help the homeless guy that's standing by your window? It's just kind of transcended through our entire family's, way of life. And so I don't know that I have a really great way of saying, how do I choose this person over this person? I think it's like, if there's a person in front of us, if there's a group of people that we can help right now. So that's why it's like, on the, collective influence, why I want to get to 1 billion so fast is, like, that billion, I'll take, 10, 15, 20% of that billion, and that will go out into the world. And so it's like, I want to create more so that we get to feel that more. And so then you can just say yes a whole lot more. Saying yes feels so much better than saying no. So it's like, you get those opportunities all the time, and we've got a board full of them right now. I think we've got 8 or 9 on our board that we'd love to take. And so depending on how we do this quarter, we'll take those on and just keep rolling.
And do they, I know it just kind of comes to you.
Yeah.
But is there a way where, it comes in other ways where somebody else possibly refers it to you, or do they see your website and they try to sign up for something? I mean, are there other ways of it getting your attention?
There are. And for the first time, we've really actually started taking donors. Like, it just was always something we did. And so we formalized the nonprofit maybe 5 or 6 years ago. And, it's all over social. If you look at Impact Others on social, it's there, impactothers.com, the website. And then we've got all these outlets. And what we've done is we've actually created regional directors. So we have, like, a regional director in Pakistan and India and Ghana, West Africa, Nigeria, Peru, Lima, Bogota, Colombia, Brazil. And we've got, like, I think 19 regional directors. And they're really responsible for maximizing the dollars we're willing to give them to create the most impact there. And so that's why, creating sustainable jobs there might make sense. So, like, for instance, in India, we have 2 orphanages, and they're from children of leper colonies. So in India, there's still leprosy. And the parent, India is a caste system. So once you're diagnosed with leprosy, you're kind of cast out and you go live in a commune. And those parents will eventually die, but leprosy isn't really easy to contract today. So the children rarely, if ever, get it. And so, but the children are dealt with as the lowest, position in the caste system now. So, like, you can be the highest caste when you're, found with leprosy. Your children, and when you're in the lowest caste, you don't get access to education, you don't get access to food, you don't get access, I mean, not just like college education, but like, grammar. Like, these kids can't read. And so we were opposed with that. And so we were like, you know what, like, let's we can help there. So we started a leper colony, or orphanage there for the children of the leper colony if their parents passed away, because usually most of them are just out in the streets begging. And so we started by, let's provide them education. Let's start providing them food. Let's take them in. And our director there, he said, Eddie, he said, if we had water buffalo, we could provide milk. And I'm like, wait a minute, water buffalo give milk? And he's like, yes. And he's like, they give way more milk than a dairy cow. And I'm like, and people drink this? And he's like, yes. He was like, you can actually make a lot of money off of it. And I was like, all right, well, how much do water buffalo cost? So we went over there. We actually created a water buffalo farm, and it's about $100. It costs about $100 a water buffalo, but they produce gallons of milk, and then they go sell them in the marketplace. So we create jobs, and then it creates sustenance. And so out of that water buffalo farm, we were actually able to open an entirely new orphanage that we didn't have to just give money to. And so that's why we say we'll create those sustainable work environments, because they'll create more income that then allows the community to get bigger. So avocado farms in Honduras and woodworking in Laos, it's like we're also trying to create those sustainable opportunities too, because those kids don't need to just be educated. They also need to be taught to work and to earn a living and to reconstitute into society.
When you were
Yeah, you
approached
want
with the
everybody
water,
to thrive.
yeah.
Sorry.
When you were approached with the water buffalo idea, did you feel like you're being taken for a ride?
Yeah, I feel like that every day. I am so like I'm the skeptical one, right? Like, and so the guy, he said, so there's this 13-year-old kid, and he's like, go with him and he'll take you to the farmer. And I'm like, so I'm walking down the street with this.
No chance.
Kid.
Nope, can't do it.
And
I'll go, hot air balloon ride in Dubai, but I'm not going to follow this kid to the water buffalo farm.
Yeah. And so like I go there, and so we work it all out with this farmer for me to buy all these water buffalo. And so we buy all these water buffalo. And so I say to this 13-year-old kid, so how do we get these water buffalo back to our place? Because we had like a pen and everything ready. And he was like, watch. So he just like starts tying all their things together. And he's leading, like this 13-year-old kid's leading like 50 water buffalo down the street, like all in a caravan. And I'm like, you can't make this stuff up.
You would need a permit for that in the US.
Yeah.
And the most you can do is 3. Most you can do is 3. Then this 50. I mean, you would need like underpasses on trains, and oh my goodness.
Yeah, exactly.
Animal control be calling you, be like, what are you doing? We're moving them from over there to over here, and we're creating a water buffalo farm.
Yeah,
sure you are.
Buffalo farm.
The only farm you're going to is the funny farm.
Farm. Yeah. Oh, it just sounds so incredible, everything that you've created. And having, and you're right, community is the most important, no matter where you are, which industry you're in. I mean, I do it even in my own businesses. It's about community.
Sure.
Because I think otherwise, why do it?
Right.
Yeah, absolutely.
There's something inside of us that just desires community. And, once you feel that belonging, it doesn't matter if it's an orphanage or if it's the fitness convention, there's power in the community. And to me, there's also power like in that community. Then if you can point in the right direction, you can make impact on others.
No, absolutely. You spoke a lot about the successes that you've had and what makes you tick. I want to know what the biggest train wreck you've had as a business, because can't no one believe it's all shiny.
Yeah, no. Yeah. I was on a podcast the other day with my wife, and this guy asked me the same thing. He said, give me one of your failures. And I was like, I don't think I could think of one. And so I look at my wife, and she's like, oh, I'll tell you. And
I've got a list. Yeah. I've got a whole list right here.
Like, maybe I should,
August 23rd.
Yeah, call her in here.
2015.
I struggle with that, because to me, it's that mindset we talked about. It's like, is the perspective. Is it really failure? Like, I don't know. It's so like, yeah, I mean, I've had some disasters. I've had, especially you're going into COVID, and I've got event-based businesses, and it's like, I'm like, screw the government, I'm gonna just run events anyways. It's like that doesn't go well. Like you don't just like it backfires really, really fast. And so we struggled through COVID with event-based companies. I put on the only in-person event in Las Vegas during COVID, but it was one of the worst decisions I ever made. Was made, and literally we had a police or some escort for every person, and they literally kept them at arm's length distance. It was like, why are we even doing
ridiculous?
This is stupid. Yeah. So the casinos and everything were closed down, and Yeah, I mean, it's like I've done a lot of crazy stuff like that. I bought businesses that the due diligence just wasn't that great, and the person just flat out lied, and it wasn't even close to what they said. I bought a business that this one I'll leave you with, but I bought a business that was supposed to be a where you could send out controlled substances, right? And so prescription controlled substances. We have to have a doctor's network. Where I bought it, we purchased it last year on September 28th. That was the closing date. We did not know that there was this thing called a COVID exemption, meaning they opened up telehealth nationwide, meaning you didn't have to have a license in every state. As long as you possessed a license in one state, you could actually take telehealth calls, write prescription medicine. And so we were going down this kind of fitness journey, trying to create this company. Bought it on the 28th. We get a notice from our doctor that we are non-compliant and operating illegally on October 1st. It was like, I just bought it like 2 days ago. What do you mean we're illegal? He's like, oh yeah, the COVID exemption expired. And I was like, so, you jump. So then it was like, oh, you have to have 49 more licenses in order to do that. And that's going to cost you, $250,000 in 6 more months. And it was like, and we have salespeople lined up to take the calls. We have doctors ready to prescribe. We've got, the pharmacies ready to ship. And it's like everything comes to a screeching halt, but we've had stuff like that. But you just, to me, it's all perspective. You work through it. And I feel like the thing is what came out of that was actually an even better opportunity. So it's all about perspective.
Oh, I love it. Absolutely love it, Eddie. If people listening to this want to get a hold of you, where would they find you at?
Sure. I'm active on all the social channels, LinkedIn, Instagram, Facebook, TikTok. I've got all of that running. That's the easiest thing. You can email me at Eddie at collectiveinfluence.com, EDDIE at collectiveinfluence.com.
Do you get in those TikTok dances?
No TikTok dances for me. I have no rhythm, not enough rhythm for TikTok dancing.
You found your niche and it's not dancing on TikTok?
Exactly.
There's probably some parents out there that need to hear that. It's okay. It's okay if you can't get the TikTok dance down. We like it when you fall, only because it doesn't hurt us personally, but it probably bruises more than your ego. So go ahead and say no to TikTok dances. If that's just not your thing, that's okay.
That's right.
My wife laughs at that shit hilariously. She's in the kitchen, like, what are you laughing at? She's like, look at this idiot in Columbus, fill in whatever city.
Yeah.
Like, well, what are they doing? He's like, yeah, didn't check the area before they started doing whatever TikTok dance.
Oh, jeez.
And now they're in traction. So
oh, jeez.
love people that are willing to be I don't want to say dumber than me, but like willing to do some stuff that I just probably wouldn't do. Like, and then record it. Like, by all means, please keep my wife entertained. It's very exciting for me. But you don't have to. There's other ways to excel in life and really grasp hold of your zone of genius. And Eddie's obviously found his with his propensity for leaving businesses as soon as possible and by helping whenever the opportunity arises. And if you had any advice for anyone right now that's trying to figure out what to do in their world, what advice would you give them?
Yeah, I think it comes down to you have to be able to control three things. Every person should control three things. Number one, your time. If you cannot get your time under control, it's like people chase money, chase your time, chase it daily. Get very specific about what you allow into your life and what you will spend time on. I remember going to I bought stock in Apple at one point just so that they would take me on this tour of Steve Jobs' office. And you walk into Steve Jobs' office and there was a motorcycle, a desk, and a painting. And we were talking to his assistant, and I said, why is there only three things in this office? And she was like, well, and she said, and when he comes in, he only will take one device. He'll either take one iPad, one cell phone, one computer, but he won't take more than one device. And we were asking her why, and she said, because he refuses to spend time on anything that is not important to him. He said he has the motorcycle because it's beautiful, he has the desk because it's practical, and he has the painting because it's creative. And she said, that's it. And it was like, And it's just that there's just this reminder that people that are doing great things in this world do not waste time, and so important to get control of your time. The second thing is if you get control of your time, then wealth will come. And wealth, we need to really, we really need to redefine wealth in this country. With all these social media influencers and everybody out there that gain wealth so easily. I think that redefining wealth to allow you to live inside of it is important. And wealth to me, which allowed me to do what I do today, was just simply redefining it. What I defined wealth is I want to be able to live today without taking away from my sustenance tomorrow. Meaning I don't want to ever expend my resources. I want to create enough passive resource that tomorrow is taken care of and today is good as well. And so I don't need a lot if I don't need a lot tomorrow. So if I can figure out how to live within my means, then I can kind of pull that back. And so wealth is, to me, it's having enough today to live and to eat and to be what I need to be, but not taking away from tomorrow. And then lastly, it's purpose. So it's time, wealth, and purpose. Purpose is so important because you have to have something to attach your life to. If you get caught in that rat race of next mountain peak, next mountain peak, next mountain peak, next mountain peak, you'll be 80 years old and completely unsatisfied. For me, it's attaching everything in life to purpose. And so when I go, to me, it's like if you take Maslow's hierarchy of needs, that self-actualization pinnacle, I feel like there's 3 steps in self-actualization. Number 1 is like get a hold of your time, understand what wealth is, define wealth, and then ultimately attach everything into purpose. And then I think that your life begins to really take care of itself at that point. You attach things to purpose, and all of a sudden it's like you wake up fulfilled and happy and joy. And I get to live a fantastic life, and it's not because I'm doing crazy things. It's just because I really am satisfied with what my life is creating, and so that's my advice. Worry about time, wealth, and purpose.
Thank you so much for being our guest today, Eddie. It's been fantastic.
Thank you.
That's all for this episode of Titan Evolution Podcast. We hope this no-holds-barred conversation opened your eyes on what it takes to live a genuinely happy life according to your own terms. Now that you've treated yourself to such a refreshing discussion, you cannot listen to nonsense content anymore. Be sure not to miss an episode by subscribing to the show at TitanEvolutionPodcast.com. Don't forget to share the word so more people can be enlightened, informed, and entertained. Thank you for listening.